Welcome back, everyone, to Hearts of Iron 4, everything, or whatever. I don't English, I guess. Anyway, welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4. This time we're playing the Millennium Dawn mod, as you can see, as the Chinese. Now, it may be worth noting that this is not the start date. I have played a little bit ahead so that we skip some of the most horribly boring parts of any Millennium Dawn playthrough. Right now we've played a year and a half. We are in August 2001. And yeah, we're about to kickstart some China. Now, as the Chinese, what my idea for this playthrough is to make the Chinese democracy. And then, you know, upset the global order as a glorious Chinese democracy. Maybe, you know, keeping the CPC in power just at the head of a, you know, multi-party order. Now, to do that, we're gonna need to do a bunch of shit. Now, we start off being unable, actually, to send expeditionary forces to countries, and that's something that we're definitely gonna try to get ourselves involved with. We need world tension to be at 50% to do so, because our starting national spirit, Zhonghua, the Chinese nation, puts the intervention force at plus 30%. Guessing it's supposed to represent a bit like how China often claims to be this great and glorious, peaceful, you know, society since like 1,000 years or whatever. Not entirely correct, but whatever. And I feel like if we... actually, the global superpower thing does not actually help you out with that, but we are already considered by the game a superpower, which is... well, pretty interesting. However, being a superpower means that it is very, very expensive to raise our interventionism. We are right now at limited interventionism, while going up to regional interventionism or even global interventionism would improve our ability to get involved in the world. So for now, our tasks are going to be very, very much focused on the inner areas of the Chinese domain. We're going to be trying to grow our economy. Now, what we are going to do is we're going to grab Tseng Qinghong's agenda, and we're going to explain why in just a little bit as we let the clock run by. Now, let's just explain the setup a little bit. So, during this period in history, Congo DR asks for a debt bailout. That is always a cool thing, because if you grant people debt bailouts, your influence of them increases a bunch. So as you can see right now, we're at 23% with the Congo DR. And look, now we're at 51%. It doubles it. Now, the game says that it triples it, and probably it triples the amount of points it awards you in terms of the influence. Like, the way that the influence system works is that the percentage is determined by a bunch of points, and essentially whoever has, you know, a certain share of the total points has that percentage influence. I'm not sure if, like, the points are determined by something, but honestly, I don't think so. Even ourselves, we are influenced by the United States a little bit. We probably influence the United States a tiny bit. No, we don't. But yeah, basically, that's always something you want to do, and it's not a random event. Obviously, you know, if a country goes in a steep debt, they can ask for a bailout, but I think whoever gets asked is, you know, based on influence, or it might be random, I don't know. So that's a good opportunity we should take. Now, basically, the current situation of China, IRL, or in 2001, is that we've basically just joined the World Trade Organization, and we're starting to hit those years in the 2000s when the Chinese economy was essentially, you know, growing pretty much out of proportion, basically. starting to head into the sort of period of ridiculous, insane, like double-digit growth from, you know, again, 2000 to 2008 that propelled China, you know, into the position where it is today. It was relative, like the growth of the Chinese economy was relatively slowed down by the 2008 crisis, but, you know, obviously Millennium Dawn's time frames are not as clear-cut, and so perhaps, you know, instead of having to wait until 2018 to be really cool and bullying, we're gonna have to wait a little bit less because, I mean, it's a game, so it doesn't have to be a simulator. But basically, at this point, China's economy was very much a export manufacturing economy, while after the 2008 crisis, the shift to the consumer economy that it is starting to sort of put the finishing touches on in our current days. You know, as we head into 2020, we're starting to come out. Like, after the 2007-2008 financial crisis, it became clear to China's leadership that they needed to diversify the sources of GDP growth. Otherwise, if they kept up, you know, the export economy, eventually it was going to be the Western economies that was going to be the sort of weak point in that. Because if you export to Europe, but Europe is in trouble, you're not exporting anymore, and then you're in trouble. I'm very much simplifying it. Now, Australian elections. John Howard forms a new government, the Liberal Party of Australia. Interesting. Yeah, and exactly. Lower demand for Chinese goods abroad. We just got downgraded to stable growth from fast growth, and earlier on we actually had economic boom. We really want to get back up there because having less growth reduces our revenue, and we already have sort of revenue problems, and especially the construction speed is lower. Now, the way GDP growth is represented here is that, you know, if you get more GDP growth, you obviously get more taxes, but at the same time, the GDP growth is supposed to be represented by growth in civilian industry. So, starting off as China, you definitely want to have a lot of industrial growth, and so construction speed is extremely important. And if you have a higher economic cycle, you get a much, you know, larger bonus to construction speed. Now, we already have a very, very high construction speed because of the $2,000 GDP per capita per year, which is obviously very, very low, and, you know, basically it's supposed to represent how our country is still, on average, very, very poor and underdeveloped. And so, yeah, basically we get the catch-up factor from that. Now, we're picking Tseng Ching-hong's agenda, which is the ahistorical path. Now, for any reference, I'm not sure if I've uploaded my sort of China... Millennium Dawn China rework focus tree review thing where I explain essentially what's going on. But basically, Hu Jintao is the historical choice for Chinese leadership at about this time. He's supposed to come in 2002. However, we are taking Tseng because we want to have a superior opinion of us from the military. This goes into our agenda of trying to you know, reform the Chinese political system into the democracy with Chinese characteristics. We can only do that, and by that I mean go down the open window path by having both the Communist Party cadre faction and the People's Liberation Army faction. And as you can see, our leader just changed from Jiang Zemin. Enthusiastic. So basically, our Communist Party cadre opinion is already enthusiastic, as you can see. They start off as positive, I believe, which is the level 1. And the way we got a higher opinion is through preserving the CPC's unity and the factional struggle between the Youth League, aka the faction that birthed out Hu Jintao and the Shanghai clique, aka the faction that we belong to. So we have kept, or rather, we went into a balanced, where is it? Apparently, yeah, factional politics balanced. If factional politics weren't balanced and they were instead, you know, favoring the Shanghai clique, we would have economic bonuses, while the Communist Youth League, as you can see, gives political bonuses, and instead makes your economy slow down. But we have decided to preserve the unity so that we get more standing with the CPC. And this is going to be required because, again, taking an open window requires both the PLA and the Communist Party to have an enthusiastic opinion of the leader. And there goes the Hong Kong election. Now, after that, we can take an open window and we replace our repressive government, National Spirit, with reformist government, which is going to give us more research, more production efficiency, and more support for pro-Western and pro-non-aligned ideologies. And after that, actually, we have a bunch of political power. We can go back to fast growth, and we probably want to go back to economic boom as well. So, I'm gonna wait on the political power, of which we're getting quite a bit of, and that's good. And that's a lot of daily command power gain, which might be useful for, where is it? For the Xinjiang things. Yeah, raid militant hideouts. And, yeah, anyway. Once we take this path, we are gonna head deeper into it. And, yeah, so basically, what we are right now interested in doing is we're forming our political system so that we are more ready to meet the West or whatever with our own democracy. And to actually get the democracy through, it's kind of funny. I speak about this in the other video as well. We are going to have to do a bunch of things that the Communist Party likes, because whenever we take, for example, allowing foreign social media, the Communist Party is going to decrease their opinion of us, and to take the next focus, we still need them to have an enthusiastic opinion of our leader. So we need to constantly keep them happy. And the way to do that is going to be, you know, going down and, for example, crushing the Turkestan Islamic Party and getting some Xinjiang re-education camps. Of course. Right now, Xinjiang, let's talk about that. So Xinjiang is this massive region to the northwest, right? This one. They're in the news quite a lot lately because of the situation there with China's sort of stepping up the internal repression of the native population, the Uyghur. Well, native. That's an incorrect word whenever you speak about any ethnicity, but you know, the population that used to be the majority up until recently, the Uyghurs, who are this Muslim, you know, Central Asian ethnicity, more akin to the Kyrgyz and the Tajiks and the Kazakhs than you know, the Han Chinese. And there goes an election whatever they have in Pakistan. They're still emerging, which is pretty good because they are very, very much, well, we love them, they love us. Not as much as we love them, but they definitely love us. We actually guarantee them as well. We can get a military base on their territory, which is not bad, you know. Military base is just the way that they've renamed military access. Anyway, so basically Xinjiang is represented, right now China in real life is basically, well, doing the whole concentration camp treatment to the native population, and, you know, just stepping up repressive measures, especially when it comes to, like, a lot of technological measures as well. such as security, digital security, security cameras, facial recognition, those kinds of things. Anyway, so basically the whole region is represented in this Xinjiang mechanic. So the Uyghur minority of Xinjiang has for a long time been viewed by the Chinese authorities with suspicion. This suspicion has only hardened the Uyghur as Uyghur militant activity has grown as a result of dissatisfaction with Chinese rule. The militant threat cannot be ignored, however. We must balance the need to fight terrorism with the need to win over the hearts and minds of the local people. Uyghur threat denotes the strength of the Uyghur militancy, with a higher threat leading to more deadly and destructive attacks. And see, there's no like Turkestan tag, but perhaps there can be like a straight up revolt over here, and they can declare independence. I'm not sure. But definitely you do get sent like a bunch of bad events pretty much all the time. And the Uyghur opinion determines the rate at which the Uyghur threat increases, with 100% representing overwhelming Uyghur support of the government and 0% representing universal hostility. So basically the way that you increase the opinion is by, pumping money and political power into the region of two resources which right now are relatively scarce of ours. So what we can mostly do is use our command power to periodically make raids on militants. Yeah, basically keep the problem hopefully contained, but it's always gonna come back. For now, we can't really deal with it. Anyway, we took Preserve the Revolution. Let us take the Netizen Nation. The alternative here is the internet crackdown, which just shuts it down. Shut down that internet. Anyway, we have 800 political power, which means that we can take the economic boom. There we go. And there's this fucking bullshit. Niger no longer recognizes our government. I wonder if more of it is gonna come up, because there is a bit of an issue that was supposedly fixed, but I'm not sure. Where like basically you get bombed by these. This country no longer recognizes us, and that ties into another system that we're gonna be taking a look at, which is the Taiwan cross-strait relation system. So Taiwan, as many of you know, is the Republic of China officially, and they are, well, descendants politically of the Chinese nationalists that used to control the Chinese mainland and fled to Taiwan after the end of the Chinese Civil War, supported by the United States. There we go. Ooh, new hardware. That's pretty cool. Let's get the Super Cruise, and let us get... there was one in tanks too, now was it? That is an engineer tank. Yes. Give me more military hardware. Alright. That's Hong Kong. And basically, with the support of the United States, they have managed to stay de facto independent, but, in terms of, like, legal recognition, Taiwan or rather the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China have been sort of tussling to get the world to, pay attention to them more than the other, and obviously get the superior position on the world stage on the emerging in Bangladesh. That's pretty good. Get the superior position on the global stage, and sort of get international diplomacy on their side of the equation. And there is this system where countries can recognize you or the ROC. Now, in this mod. Now, it's bugged right now, and I'm presuming because Taiwan is Western outlook, a bunch of countries that really have no business recognizing Taiwan right now, because they're also Western outlook, they decide to switch the recognition from China to Taiwan, which bombs, not only in terms of like bombs you with events of constantly like, oh, someone's recognizing someone else. It also bombs you with like -50 political power every time, which I've had to deal with, and which hopefully has been fixed so I don't have to deal with it. I don't mind like the country recognition switching. This does make the game quite significantly harder, because it does decrease our opinion of them, although actually it... Huh. Is that going down? I think it's going down because it used to be -50. But yeah, it gets the recognizes rival government malice, but apparently their opinion of us doesn't change, which means that, you know, it shouldn't... Yeah, like large commercial relations. Apparently we have large commercial relations with France. Are you sure? Doesn't look like it. Anyway, what is kind of cool is that apparently that is not a thing, because I thought it was, and I thought that it basically signaled that you couldn't do diplomacy with a whole bunch of countries that you're supposed to be able to do diplomacy with, but apparently not, so that's fine. And yeah, basically, you know, losing like 50 political power every time a country changes recognition is not fun, especially when it's not like realistic at all, because, you know, the reason why a bunch of countries recognize China over Taiwan, obviously, is that, you know, you want to trade with the billion and 300 million population instead of the, like, what, 20 million Taiwan? Isn't there a ledger? No, that's only in TNO that they invented the ledger. Like 12.8 million, 1 million, 8 million. So that's like what? 14 million, 22, roughly 22.5 million people, Taiwan. Yeah, you know. And there we go. Xinjiang sees widespread protest. That's the event that I was talking about with, well, this is the first one. There can actually be worse things if the Uyghur threat rises. Anyway, we have two choices. We can either make concessions, which is going to decrease stability and war support. War support more so than stability, and increase Uyghur threat while also increasing Uyghur opinion. Or we could just increase the Uyghur threat and decrease both stability and war support, which for now is what we're gonna do. There we go. And yeah, so that's basically the Taiwan aspect. Now, Taiwan has also another mechanic that we can interact with, which is obviously their internal politics, which is connected to our focus tree through the popularity of the Pan-Blue Coalition and the Pan-Green Coalition. Now, the two main political camps in Taiwan, the Pan-Blues and the Pan-Greens, are basically alliances of parties that are divided mostly on their outlook on the option of Taiwan declaring itself an independent country, aka Taiwan, or the Republic of Taiwan, as opposed to staying as the Republic of China and looking instead more favorably upon an eventual either agreement or submission to mainland China, you know, so the eventual reunification of the great Chinese motherland. Now, the Pan-Blues are the ones that are more pro-China, and they are led by the KMT, the Nationalist Party. And as you can see there, the Kuomintang, the Kuomintang have 28%. There's also the People First Party and the New Party. Now, because of the way that the Millennium Dawn politics work, which are kind of weird and fickle, it looks like the People First Party just sort of grew a whole bunch, while the Pan-Greens are led by the Democratic Progressive Party and includes also the more radical Taiwan Independence Party. Now, the Democratic Progressive Party are the ones that are leading right now up until the December 2002 elections, where they're likely to vote for the Pan-Blues, it seems. Thus leading to a Pan-Blue government. But we can do things to help out the Pan-Blues, for example, making the Democratic Progressive Party lose their support to the Kuomintang with a anti-DDP or DPP media campaign, which we're gonna click. Another thing we can do is ban solo travel to Taiwan, which is going to get their economy in a bit of trouble, but presumably also make them a little bit angry at us. And that's for if we want to put a bit of extra pressure, because there is a whole tree, or a whole section of the tree dedicated to the issue of the reunification of China out here. We can either emphasize the two systems or one system. Now this is from sort of formula that the Chinese Communist Party has developed called one country, two systems. And it basically means that the important thing to them is that China becomes a single nation again in terms of, you know, the overall political entity, and it doesn't really matter if it's federalized in its components, you know, if like Taiwan wants to keep its democratic system, if Hong Kong wants to keep its weird sort of half democratic system, it's fine. And is there Lee Kuan Yew? Oh no, apparently. Interesting. Yo, apparently the Malaysians are nationalists. Okay. And yeah, basically, we're gonna be having some interactions there as well. Okay, so now we can take open window. And here it's saying, Deng Xiaoping once famously described the opening up of China as an opening a window for fresh air. While, as Deng also said, some flies are bound to fly in when this happens, this is a risk we must also take to enjoy the benefits of opportunity. Alright, very nice. One thing we can do is also decreasing corruption, which is going to increase just our government's efficiency as a whole. We start off with China, I believe, with rampant corruption, level 8, and as you can see, the effects are quite crippling, so lowering that significantly is an important objective. How close are we to the intervention force? Wow, world tension is still at 0%, which is quite a bit lower than what I would want it to. Can we even justify a war goal? No. Because we need world tension to be at 55%, and we can declare war on country with... Oh. Because obviously we can't. That's just for them, though. Alright. In the meantime, we're going to be building up our armed forces, obviously. Which is quite good. We're also trying to increase our infrastructure in the meantime, so that we get more resources from a lot of these resource-rich regions, such as Inner Mongolia and Shanxi and Hebei provinces. And yeah, looks like the Northern Alliance is in a bit of trouble. A pepperoni. Any other weird civil wars going on right now? Well, Somalia's not feeling so good. Apparently, like, the Somali government itself has been pushed out of Mogadishu by the Somali National Alliance. We influence the Somalia quite a bit, apparently. And there goes a Japanese election. Japan will be a bit of an issue, and Japan is very heavily in debt, although we are starting to get heavily in debt too. This is one thing that we have to address. Our expenditures are insanely high. In fact, most of our expenditure is in terms of education, which I think is proportional with your population, and obviously our population is pretty ridiculously high, so yeah, right now we have basic support for primary and secondary education, which does give us some bonuses, but that is pretty damn expensive. We could cut on $500 million a day, I believe? Yeah, $500 million a day. And that would pretty much make it so we are equal. Now, we have other expenditures, such as minimal pensions for the elderly and the disabled, but see, we get from that we gain, and if we were to minimal subsistence subsidies, we'd also lose like $0.2 billion a day in, or rather, we'd gain $0.2 billion a day that we're spending right now. But the pensions are giving us political power, while the education is not. Now, the education is giving us a lot of research speed and construction speed, but right now those things are not necessarily required as much. So I think that lowering the education support is probably a pretty good idea. And now we're pretty close to, you know, evening out the budget. And I feel like if we lower our corruption from systematic to widespread, how much are we going to gain? 5% tax revenue, which 5% of 2.5 billion, should be something like 100 million or something? No, 10 million. That's not that much. That really isn't all that much. Yeah. Oh, well, when the time comes, we're gonna be thinking about that. Anyway, we're taking Let 100 Flowers Bloom, which is a, yeah, citation from Mao Zedong. And this time it isn't a trap for all the reformist people to come out and then we're gonna send them to jail or whatever, or to the, you know, collectivized farms. Anyway, Eritrea situation also developing. Okay, I feel like we have talked about most of the important things. Right, our army. We need to think about that as well. Now, you start off the game with a bunch of different division types, and I've simplified that down a little bit to one type of motorized division. That's going to be sort of our, you could say our tanky division that's supposed to soak up punishment. Now, there's a bunch of tank battalions over here that I'm not sure really have much of a place, that I may, you know, withdraw later. There's just a bunch more motorized divisions down here because I've divided up into a couple of armies to defend our frontiers should they come into you know, need. And we also have a bunch of these mechanized divisions, but we are facing a severe shortage of infantry fighting vehicles, so I may cut down on those. Then we have a few airborne divisions that I need to expand, and the Hong Kong Air Assault Brigade, which is a motorized airborne for light infantry combat. And then we have a lot more special forces that are just these very, very simple regiments, and a few marine brigades they've got a very, very weird composition. I'm gonna need to check out like exactly the stats, how they work out, but I trust the AI. And there's some mechanized marine divisions as well, or at least one of them. And there we go. Take this, the freedom of speech. We're gonna let the people have freedom of speech or whatever. And then we have the sort of striking force, which are our armored divisions. Ton of main battle tanks for the glorious Chinese army. What are we actually missing for these to be fully infantry fighting vehicles? Yeah, so that's, as expected, a bit of a problem with our mechanized forces. And they also have a lot of tank battalions, so yeah, we really may want to cut down on them a little bit. And that leaves us with quite the surplus with a lot of equipment that we're going to need to figure out what to do with. But, you know, when the time comes, that shall have to be a thing. Chinese consumers spend less. God damn it. Please, 60%. See, in my experience, that always It's not a 40% chance. So, okay, so what this event is about is that right now our economic cycle is economic boom, because basically our monetary policies are expansionist. Basically, we're sending money into the economy, subsidizing our industries, thus driving down prices, or subsidizing our consumers, thus driving up consumer spending, thus supposedly, you know, getting the whole economy you know, more in a spending mood, and thus driving up growth, essentially paying it with inflation, which is why a lot of economists are because normally you're like, okay, inflation means that money is valued less and that like people's savings are worth less, then it's bad. But see, economists say, okay, but if there is deflation, aka money's worth more, that's also bad because people are incentivized to hold the money instead of invest or spend it, and thus the economy grows less and it's less dynamic and there's less, you know, growth in new industries and all that kind of stuff. So this is just a way to represent that. But this event, see, it says, like, whenever you get your economic cycle up from stable growth, well, really from stagnation, because you can have this kind of event happen when you're at stable growth as well. Really, whenever you're getting your economy up, it's saying, however, too much interference increases risks of future economic bubbles. Now, you periodically get these events that require you to continuously sort of get your economic cycle back up, otherwise it would just be easy to upgrade it all the time, and then you're at the maximum, and then you're sitting pretty. See, the problem is, it's saying this will lower our economic growth from booming, 60% chance of no change, and 40% chance of fast growth. So 60% chance that nothing will happen, because this is not like that bad of an event. It's not a crash, it's not a, you know, bubble bursting, it's not a depression or anything like that. But from what I've seen, it is pretty much all the time that that 40% is actually a 100%. Just watch. Okay, I stand corrected. We actually got pretty lucky. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. Now we need to we need to get a plane manufacturer, actually. Or, ooh, no, we need a tank manufacturer first, because we're about to get a tank. Or, actually, that's the engineer tank. Shit, I should have done it before I got to Type 99. But wait, can't I just do the... Won't that make it... Yeah, okay. So, I can do that later. Anyway, we want a plane manufacturer to increase our air research. Let's take the Chengdu Aircraft Corps to focus on the fighters, because that's going to increase research basically in like all these lines, which is quite good. We definitely want to rush down to the Shenyang J-15 as early as possible, because we want China to have a glorious naval aviation. Yeah, anyway, that's the land army. It's gonna get expanded as time goes on. Right now it is 675,000 strong, so quite weak by Chinese standards. Obviously that means that, you know, if we get more troops in it, it won't hurt. It won't hurt at all. And, yeah, we're gonna get ourselves trained up as well for the event of Glorious War. For the motherland or whatever. Right, not much really to do out here. Oh, and there's also the South China Sea mechanics, but we're gonna get into that a little bit later. Yeah, do we have anything that important to talk about? Well, right now our stability is pretty shit. We've also got a bunch of modifiers that we need to talk about when we can do so with the economy. Speaking of that, more civilian factories than 75. We have 63 civilian factories, so relatively soon we can take the developed Chinese mega projects, which heads down into a whole bunch of different economic focuses that we're going to want to take if we want to get our economy up to shape, really, to face the United States. And in general, the Western Devils. Alright, so taking freedom of speech now is going to be great because the reformist government national modifier increases, thus giving us more good things, and probably more bad things as well. But also because this is the first time we see the Communist Party cadre decrease their opinion of us from enthusiastic to positive. And to recover their opinion, we're going to have to do things like crush the Falun Gong, and basically, you know, start to install democracy by being repressive, which is just, you know, the reason why I find this playthrough so incredibly attractive. It's awesome. Anyway, I feel like this is going to be enough for the first episode. We definitely have way more than enough, way more than enough things that we discussed, and you know, you have a pretty good idea as to what it's going to be happening for the foreseeable future. So yeah, I want to thank y'all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Have a good one, and I'll see you in a bit.